Hi fam, welcome back to another episode. Today's going to be talking all about my nomad journey, and my hope is that you take away whatever you need to. If you're now a nomad or you're thinking about nomading, just this is going to be my personal journey, and it'll be kind of a synopsis of it all and really what I've learned, because I feel like the nomad journey gets glamorized so fucking much, and it kind of drives me nuts because the nomad journey is not glamorized. And I have talked to several people over the last week and just really dawned on me like what this journey has taught me, and like really had to ask myself, like, did I get all that I asked for, right? And if you've watched my videos before, you know that intention is everything. And for those of you that may or may not know, I've been a nomad for over 3 years now, which is wild. I started my nomad journey in February of 2023, almost said 2024. And it's been a beautiful journey, but it has been tough, and it has been a lot of ups and downs, and it's been a lot of uncertainty and trusting in God and trusting in myself. And it really makes you into a resilient motherfucker, if I can say anything about the journey. And I was reflecting about my whole journey on my walk this morning and how grateful I am to have had this experience, and so proud of that version of me that just literally just packed up her shit, threw it in storage, packed her bags, and left for Bali within like a 2-week notice. And this trip just kind of fell into my lap. I had known that I was leaving my apartment in Colorado in January of 2023. Oh my God, I keep saying 2024. It's so funny. In January 2023, I was like, I'm leaving my apartment. I'm gonna, just pack my car, and I'm gonna take off, and I'm gonna head west, because at that point, Colorado was buried in snow, and it had been cold and dark and depressing. And I was like, man, I thought I left this weather in New England for a reason, but it followed me to Colorado, and all for a reason, right? You look back and you're like, oh, I understand why that was happening. And so I was looking to caravan with other nomads, and stumbled upon this post on Facebook, and it was talking about this group that was a bunch of nomads, and they were going to Bali. And I just was like, yeah, give me more info, and got on the call with the girl who was organizing it, and just a 15-minute sales call turned into 2 hours. And I was like, holy shit, I think I'm going to Bali. My whole body was lit up in chills, and I was just so fucking stoked. And so within 2 weeks, I quit my job. I threw everything in storage, including my car. I packed up 4 bags, and I headed to Bali because I didn't know when I was going to be back. And that journey began so beautifully. And if you know anything about Bali, as I'm staring at this little happy Buddha statue in front of me, Bali is such a spiritual place, but it is not for the faint of heart. And it teaches you a lot while you're there. And I didn't realize the trip that I was in for, but what a beautiful one at that. And that would start my nomad journey. I spent 5 weeks in Bali by myself. Well, the first 2 weeks was with the group. The last 3 weeks, I was by myself for the most part. And it was awesome. But I was starting from scratch. I quit my job. I didn't have a lot of money in the bank. And I was scared shitless. And a lot about the nomad journey is really about, you're uprooting yourself. Sometimes every couple of days, sometimes every couple of months. It really just depends. Sometimes it goes on for a year, like it just depends on who you are and what you have to learn. And so for me, I spent the first 2 weeks with a group, and then was with some friends, just, being in a hostel, and then a homestay for a couple of days. And then I was pretty much on my own for the next 2.5 weeks. And it was great, and it was magical. And I also had so much anxiety and was waking up crying every single morning. Things they don't tell you along the way, right? And I know that I'm not the only nomad that has experienced this, where it's absolutely terrifying. You don't know what's next, and it's so much of the unknown. And yet I'm so proud of that version of me for sticking it out as long as she did. And yeah, she caved, but now we know how to listen to our intuition, because my intuition was screaming one thing and I kept ignoring it. Now, always hindsight 2020, right? Maybe not always, but you know what I mean. And so from there, I went to Spain. I lived with my sister and my brother-in-law and their kiddos for 2.5 months, and then came back to the States and spent a month in New England, and then went back to Colorado for 2 weeks, and then literally was sitting in the beautiful mountains of Colorado camping and had $13 to my name. And I was like, I have to call my parents. Even though I had gone out and I had applied for a job and I had gotten the job, but they were like, you know, you're not going to get paid for 2 weeks. And I just immediately panicked, even though that's what I truly wanted. And so I called my parents and they helped bail me out. And I packed up my car and I moved back to Connecticut, well, New England, and ultimately Connecticut for 8 months. And then got a job for a few months, and then picked up and left again and went to Costa Rica, and went to Costa Rica with intentions of learning how to serve medicine, and that backfired so fucking quickly once I got there. And instead of just picking up and going home, I stayed because I felt like I needed to prove something, and also didn't want to go back home. And one thing I've learned along this journey is that home is within myself. Home is wherever I am. Home is not necessarily a place, although I'm at the point now where I am so aware of that I do desire to have a home, and I do desire to be grounded somewhere. And that's where I'm at in my journey now, and have been for quite some time, but it's taken me a while to kind of get to this point where I'm like, okay, I think I've learned all that I needed to. And really it was about me and God. It was about me and myself. And, you know, from Costa Rica, I ended up back in New England for a month, and then moved back to Colorado for 4 months, and then nomaded full-time and worked full-time for the first 2.5 months I was in Colorado. Highly do not recommend, because not only was I, you know, going back to work full-time, which was just enough as a shock to my body, but then I was uprooting every couple of days because I would get Airbnbs on the days that I would work, and I would car camp on the days that I didn't, to try and save money. Whether I did or not, I don't really know at this point, but it was a journey nonetheless. And I got all that I desired out of it, but it was a fucking journey. I went to an apartment for 2 months, and then I took off car camping again. And I car camped for 6 months straight before getting rid of my car and moving to Canada for 4 months. And then back to the States, bebopped from Seattle down to California. I was in California for the last, 6, 7, 8 months. And then made my way up here to Bend, Oregon, which never in a million years did I think this is where I would be. And I don't know, I don't foresee myself leaving Central Oregon. And every time I've said that, oh, I don't see myself leaving here, I always end up leaving. But this truly is a place where, and who knows, I don't have all the answers. I mean, yes, of course my soul does, but this just feels like home on a different level. Even the plane ride here felt like coming home. Everyone knew each other on the plane, and it was just such like a warming feeling. And I was like, wow, I feel like I'm going home. Wild, right? And then amidst my travels here, I met a lovely lady last week who was probably in her late 60s, early 70s. And it was one of those moments where it feels like time stopped. Like the world outside of us disappeared, even though there was live music going on and there's people all around. And I felt like I was talking to an older version of myself. And I remember her asking me, you know, did you get all that you were looking for? And it makes me emotional because when I started this nomad journey, when I think back to when I was desiring the nomad journey, which was back in 2018, 2019, I desired van life for so long. And I got a little taste of it last year when I was in San Diego, which was wild. And I quickly realized that this is not what I want to do full time. I love being out there and I love being, you know, in places, but I also desire having a home base, and that's okay too. I've learned to love myself more than anything, and I've learned to trust in myself and in God so much. I knew there was a reason why my body was like, don't put mascara on because you're probably gonna cry. And this journey has taught me so much. But when I think back to when I wrote on that little, not even little, it was a freaking piece of journal paper back in 2019, like, I will be doing van life, I will be nomading, I will be traveling. I didn't think that this is where I would be. However many, 7 years later, how is that possible? And when I wrote that, the underlying intention was that I was not. I wasn't happy where I was. And my soul knew that. And so I got the divorce. I moved cross country and I did all the things, and my soul still yearned for more. She just wanted to be free. Free of all the things. And now we live out of 2 bags. Not even. It's wild. This journey's been an emotional one. And I know that it's not for everyone, but I feel like everyone glamorizes the fuck out of nomad life. And truly, I didn't realize when I started this journey that I was running away from everything. And I was running away from myself because it's part of being a verbal processor. You get to hear the truth in real time. I was running away from myself because I know how much power I hold and how much I came here to create, and that scared the living shit out of me. And so many times it's just easier to run away, but then you just run in circles. That's the part that no one talks about. You will run in circles until you run home to yourself. You will run circles until you run home to yourself. Wow. And don't get me wrong, I've seen some beautiful places along the way, and they've all been a mirror of the work that I've done in here. It's been so fun. But yet there's a lot of uncertainty. There were a lot of times that I had less than $20 in my bank account. And there was a lot of feeling this need to prove, feeling this need to be something other than what I was and who I am. And I'm so grateful for the journey. But I want you to know that if you are thinking of nomading, full-time, part-time, whatever the case is, right? Because I do believe it can be both. And really, just ultimately, you're a traveler. But if you're thinking about nomading, know that there are so many beautiful places for you to see on this planet. But to do it with the right intentions. Everything is about intention, guys. I can't stress that enough. And my first question for you would be, what are you looking for? What are you looking for outside of yourself? And if you feel called to ask, why are you running and what are you running from? Because if you're like me, you may also realize that you hold a lot of power and you came here to do big things. And when you see those visions of those big things, or you feel it in your body, that can be really scary and overwhelming. And it's easier to run away from that rather than to charge headfirst. It's so much easier just to face it head on, guys. Fuck. I know that this was always a part of my journey because I truthfully don't know where I would have ended up if I didn't do this. It could have gone a little bit different. I can see those paths now, and nonetheless, it's all beautiful and it all got me to where I am now, and I'm so grateful for that. But sit with why are you doing it? What is your intention that you're walking on that path with? Because I know a lot of me, myself, and my friends, we're all at the point where we've been nomading for a long time. And we all have realized that we were continuously running away from something bigger. And I feel like that's all why we're being called into these leadership roles now, and to share these stories is because I have personally shifted and shed so many identities on my way back home to myself. And something a friend said to me today, that the nomad life isn't always fiscally rewarding. It is if you have a really good base or a foundation to come off of, then it's great. But if you're like me and you had, you know, less than $2,000 in your bank account when you started this journey, and it's been very rare that you've seen that much money in your account since then, it's a lot. I had a lot to learn, a lot of lessons to learn, and I'm so grateful for every single one of them. I'm grateful for that version of me that just said, fuck it, packed up her bags and left. And I know to a lot of people it looks like the dream, right? Because you don't have all of the things, but I was also running away from a lot of things that I was afraid to admit to myself and afraid to face. And I think that is probably the biggest blessing of this journey, is it's allowed me to face all of those. And it's built me into a resilient motherfucker. And not that I always have to carry that, but it is nice to have in your back pocket. When someone says, you know, the dog won't be at the house, are you going to be okay being out there all by yourself? And I'm like, man, me alone in a whole house by myself for a week? Sign me up. That's what I've been dreaming of. I have a bed and a hot shower. It's like a nomad's dream. And it's wild to me to look back now and think, God, there's so many times I was sleeping in my car this time last year. I was sleeping on a little air mattress in the back of my car, surrounded by all my stuff. And how much can just change in a year, let alone 3? Holy shit, guys. Reflect, write it down, video record yourself, take note, because you will learn so much along the way. And it may not always be fiscally rewarding, but if you truly believe, the amount of magic that's happened on my path, the amount of things that have just fallen out of seemingly thin air, granted, I know I'm so protected and so guided and so held and so loved, but there's been absolute magic along this journey, and I can't unsee that either. And it's not to say that magic and hard times go hand in hand, because I don't believe that that's the thing, but I also believe that there's magic in the hard times. And it may just take you taking a bigger peek, opening up your eyes a little bit wider, getting a different perspective, bringing in that hawk medicine, if you will, a bird's eye view. My suggestions would be to sit with yourself if you're deciding to go nomadic. Look at where you're going to nomad, if you will. I'm very much I would just pick up and go. That's just how I moved. I would get a spot in my head and I would just go, rather than discerning. Discernment has been huge along this journey, and being transparent and being vulnerable and being real and raw with myself. It's been an emotional journey, but a beautiful one. And always feel free to ask questions, comment. I know this is just a short synopsis of my nomad journey, but I just know that it's super glamorized, and I've seen van lifers come out of it and they're like, it's not everything everyone chalks it up to be, you know. There's so many things, and I haven't even done full van lifing, you know. I did car camping and all the things, but and there's something to be said about all that, right? It is a beautiful journey, but yeah, it all happens for a reason. And if the nomad journey is calling to you, it's for a reason. And it's probably because your soul truly wants to be free. And truthfully, freedom is a mindset that I didn't fully understand back then. And really, this whole journey has brought me home to oneness, to just to oneness. We're all part of one big source. We're all fractals of source, if you will. And I know that my journey is meant to help a lot of people. Probably more so for the freedom mindset, because it is just a mindset. And yes, our bodies are intelligent, but at the end of the day, it's just a soul in a meat suit. A very, very intelligent meat suit, I might add, but it is just a soul. And if and when I leave this earth, my soul goes on. And true freedom isn't being locked into our name or the body that we chose. or the debt that we have incurred, or the relationships that we've had to let go of. Whatever it is that you feel like you need to run from or free yourself from, you'll find it along the way if you choose the nomad journey. But I also think you could probably find it right where you are. Not saying to never travel or anything like that, but just be mindful, be aware, use your discernment. And if it calls to you, listen to that call, because there will be something for you, even if it takes you a while to figure it out. You'll find it. I know I have. I love you guys so much. Thank you for always being here, for always supporting. Feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, all the things. Feel free to follow me on social media, Lynn Shelto, on all platforms. And yeah, I'm excited to keep bringing these videos to y'all. I hope you have a magical day whenever this finds you.